How important is COP27 in pushing forward action on climate change at a global level?
I think it's hugely important. Last year's COP, or Conference of the Parties, was in Glasgow, and it was the first meeting after a gap due to the global pandemic. But this year the COP is taking place in Egypt. It's taking place in Africa, and it's of huge importance because, in a sense, Egypt is a bridge to Africa, to a continent whose emissions are minuscule compared to regions or continents like Europe. So I think it's important that we get a message out there that we're there to help the developing world onto a sustainable development path. Because the historic emissions from Europe, from the United States, are off the scale. And yet people living in these countries in Africa are saying, what are you going to do to help us? And I think the important role of the global north is to help the global south achieve its potential, but move on a less carbon intensive path than we historically have. So hopefully they can avoid being hugely dependent on coal, on oil and gas, and the kind of help that we'll give through banks, through direct loans, through technical assistance will help them out on renewables, it'll help them out on spatial planning patterns, it'll help them out on the right kind of agriculture that hopefully will lead the world on a more sustainable development path.
And then from a European perspective, what do you think should be the key outcomes from COP27? What should Europe be looking for?
Well, I think the European Union has a pretty good story to tell. We've agreed a European Green Deal, and as part of that we're aiming to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by over half by the year 2030 compared to 1990. We're already 1/3 of the way there, so we actually are reducing emissions significantly in Europe. That having been said, the emissions from Africa are minuscule compared to developed regions like Europe, like the Americas. So I think really now is a time to help developing countries onto a clean development path. And from the European Union's perspective, we are helping, but I think we could do a lot more in terms of direct help to the African Union, to the umbrella body for Africa, through direct payments, through helping financial institutions that are extending loans to Africa. There's a lot of things that we could be doing more of.
Finally, Ciarán, in terms of Ireland's role in the whole COP27 process, what would you see as, how does Ireland play in with Europe on the COP27 process, and what should Ireland be talking about at COP27?
Well, I think Ireland, as one of the 27 member states of the European Union, is certainly very supportive of the EU's role in providing assistance to Africa. But more importantly, in terms of Ireland's role in helping the developing world, we've increased our overseas aid budget from I think 1.2 up to 1.3 billion per year. This is, I think, the highest it's ever been. And this helped to target countries, many of which are in Africa, but also elsewhere in the development world. It's of crucial importance. And the kind of aid that we give, it's to try and look at the systems in those countries, the agriculture systems, the energy systems, the transport, all of these, and make sure that we move these countries onto a clean development path. So in a sense, we're trying to help the less developed countries to reach their potential, but we're also trying to reduce emissions here at home. So in a sense, it is both contraction from the West and convergence from the global South, from the contraction from the global North and helping the global South to achieve its potential. This isn't an easy path to go on. It's really challenging, and the kind of discussions we've had in Ireland about what is the future of Ireland's agriculture, where are we going to get our energy, what are our transport systems, what are we going to do about improving the energy performance of buildings. All of this feeds into a narrative around reducing our greenhouse gas emissions in the EU, in countries like Ireland, and helping developing world countries to move on a sustainable development path.
Thank you, Ciarán.